Hold on to your hats. I've got cardboard and pens out, so this is going to get nerdy. Welcome back to Fox Can Fix It. Now, if you've been following the channel, I recently switched from a stock cast iron intake and 2-barrel Rochester to an aftermarket aluminum 4-barrel intake and a Holley 1850, which this drawing will represent poorly, but it will represent. Now, the carburetor that I bought is used. It came off of a running driving Pontiac of similar age. So it should be okay. However, it's a used carburetor. You never know what you're gonna get. It's like that Forrest Gump box of chocolates. Put it on the car. I've got the idle dialed in. I've got acceleration up to about 50% throttle, no problem. You can snap the throttle open up to about half. You can slowly go up to half. You can slowly go to wide open, no problem. The problem I have, like many of you probably have when you switch from 2 to 4, or just with a poorly tuned 4-barrel, is you go from idle or near idle to wide open throttle and you have a bog. The purpose of the accelerator pump system is when you're transitioning from idle to mild throttle, mid throttle, whatever you want to call it, it injects fuel into the engine while you're cracking the throttle open, and vacuum drops. There's not enough vacuum to then pull out of any other circuit in the carburetor for more fuel. This provides that fuel. It's not a long period of time. It's a short period of time that it needs that extra fuel until the engine vacuum increases again and fuel goes drippy drippy like it's supposed to. So this whole point, it's a temporary system that simply throws more gas at the car when you crack the throttle open. That's all it's for. And the more you crack the throttle, the more this should squeeze. That's the point of the pump cam, which they do make different sizes. They make different shapes, but they all sit in the same position here. This pump arm, I think, is the same for just about everything. It has a screw with a spring here that's sort of like a buffer, and that is adjustable. You can adjust the length so that you do not overextend or underextend your accelerator pump arm here that, well, this is a long view of it, but basically it's sitting inside a box and you're pushing down on this end of it. It's pushing up on a diaphragm, and that diaphragm is inside here, and the diaphragm squeezes the fuel and it goes through the circuits up to here, and then it comes out this way. So open throttle, cam comes up, pushes arm up here, pushes this down here, that pushes the other end of the arm up in here, then goes here and comes out there. Those are all technical terms. You can look them up. The problem I had was if I went to half throttle or more immediately, not slowly, just, slam it into half or more, it would bog, miss badly, and then slowly recover. Holley, their own website, has a great page for this. Their suggestion is if it recovers, then try a smaller accelerator pump discharge nozzle, which will give you more duration, and see if it gets better or worse. I did that. So I went from a 31 down to a 28, which that's the size opening, like 31 thousandths, 28 thousandths, whatever. So I went down. And when you go down in size, you go up in duration. I did that and I got better. It still had a bog. So just to make sure, I went the other way. I went up to, I think, a 35 or a 37 on the discharge nozzle, and it got way worse. So heading in the right direction per Holley's own website. What do you know? They were right. So I knew the problem was not necessarily the accelerator pump stroke, so it wasn't in the diaphragm. It was the duration. And if I've already dropped down to a 28, which I don't want to go smaller, because then I don't think I'd get enough fuel and I'd be running into two problems, not enough fuel and not enough duration. There had to be something else going on. So I shut the car off, let it cool off, and I just worked this throttle back and forth so I could see the accelerator pump. What I found was I had a great accelerator pump squirt until half throttle. At half throttle, I had nothing from half to wide open. So then I thought, well, maybe it's just the screw is not adjusted and it's not giving this accelerator pump arm and diaphragm enough stroke over here. So I went through Holley's process of back this off till it just touches, maybe a half turn of preload in this screw, then go wide open throttle, make sure you're not overextending the pump arm. There's a whole procedure on it. It was ballpark. It was good enough. That wasn't the problem. So then I'm starting to look at this cam. They wear out. They're nylon. It's just held in by one little slotted screw, generally speaking, maybe two. Some might have two. Might not be slotted. It's held in by a screw or a fastener. Pop that out. I looked at the cam, and I don't have one out to show you right now, but it looks just like that, but it's made of nylon, not marker. And it looked fine. It wasn't worn out. Usually you'd see a really bad wear mark. This one was perfectly shaped. No issue there. So I moved it up to the second hole. There's usually 2 or 3 adjustment holes on the cam. That made it way worse. That made it absolutely die. I fired it up, snapped the throttle open. It died like that. So that was definitely not the answer. Shut it off. Well, it died, so I didn't shut it off. It shut itself off. It didn't like it. Went back, took the cam back out, put it back into the number 1 hole that it was already in. Next step, I took this pump arm off, which is just held on by an E-clip. You know what E-clips look like. They sort of look like that, and they're clipped. They go, ah, and they grab it right here. Took the E-clip off, slid this out, looked at the stud. The stud looked fine that holds this on. The holes weren't elongated or oblong. Some of these, they will wear out as well. So you do have to replace pump arms from time to time. But you shouldn't have to bend any of this at all, especially not over here. You don't bend this to make an adjustment on your accelerator pump, generally speaking. But used carburetor, who knows? When I got it off, I started looking, pulled up Holley's page, basically pulled up one of their pump arms on the computer and zoomed in and out until I got it life size. And what I found was mine was bent up in this direction by probably 1/8 of an inch. I thought, well, could that do it? Sure it could. As you rotate the throttle open this way, this cam is also going this way. And it's gonna run into the pump arm right here. This arm being bent up like this means you got an initial hit and then you got nothing all the way to the end. It just sort of rode on it and touched it. That was my problem. Took the pump arm, put it in a vise, just sort of eyeballed it and bent it back, put it back in. Bog is cured. I'm not quite sure what they were trying to accomplish when they did it. It might be the reason that they got rid of the carburetor and got themselves another one. They might have got this from somebody else who didn't know what they were doing. Don't know overall what happened. So the point of this entire story is when you get a used carburetor, if you have a bog you can't figure out and you've been swapping out nozzles and trying to adjust this, trying to adjust your pump cam, look at your arm right here. If this is bent too far up or too far down, you're definitely gonna have problems. That's it for today's things I figured out on my project car. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And once the weather clears, we'll get this fired up and drive it again and see if we did any good putting parts on it. Till then, we'll see you next time.